Next question, one for each of you. Aly, is the simplest thing we could do to open our windows as much as possible and load up our house with plants? Is those two basic things the simplest things we could do? And what do we do for cleaning supplies? And Theodora, could you just take us again through the basics of wireless radiation with our cell phone, earpods, wireless telephones, texting, laptops, speaker phones, Alexa? Just take us through, just so there's no confusion, what is the best and what's the worst, and so make sure that we get all the wireless devices that people interact with. A lot of people ask about earbuds. So Aly, if you would go first.
So if you're asking about the question of indoor versus outdoor air quality, so outdoor air quality, we can't really control, right? You know, you drive to different cities, towns, highways, some air quality is better, some air quality is worse. We can see that with environmental injustice, where we have manufacturing runoff of water, but also air quality that goes downstream and can really make whole towns ill and sick. And we see that in the Ohio and the Midwest. There's some really important stories actually being followed right now for that. People can't get up and move, you know, they just don't have the funding, the money, and there's a lot of illness downwind from a lot of manufacturing. Now, that being said, if you're talking about indoor air quality, which I do decipher in the book because I want people to know what they can and can't control so they can focus their energy wisely. Indoor air quality is very interesting. So we have become very, economically insulated with our homes and our windows because we want to keep the heat out and the air, the hot air and the cold air, and we want to be very insulated. So what that does is it creates really a bubble of air in our homes that doesn't get really recirculated very often or very well. And so your point about changing out the air and moving air through, I do that every day in my office when I go in. I just open 2 different doors at the ends and I basically let air wash through. Of course, I have a lot of non-toxic materials in that space, which also helps. And in my home, I do it a lot. I have 2 young boys, so it serves other purposes. But the idea is that you want to change out the air as much as you can. You want to get a great HVAC system. You want to make sure that your HVAC system is, the filters are being changed regularly. I've been told, and I'm understanding now that actually what I consider routine in terms of changing filters out is often should be a little bit more. Again, that takes time and money. What I tell people that is the most important issue with indoor air quality is don't buy junk and bring it in your home. I think the number one way to cut back on volatile organic compounds and phthalates and chemicals that are in our cleaning products, which I'll decipher between COVID cleaning and life cleaning, which is a very distinct difference, is that all of the products in all of our cleaning products in the United States, none have oversight for testing of any of the ingredients that are put into those products. Okay. So that right off the bat, cosmetics, personal care products, there is no oversight, no regulatory testing that's required of manufacturing companies for any of the ingredients that are in cosmetics, personal care products, and cleaning products. So that being said, you're going to look at a label and you're going to see a million things that you didn't go to, toxicology school or to biochem. And so you look at these horrible names and you think, boy, this is pretty awful. Well, chances are they are pretty awful because they've been allowed to do whatever they wanted to do. If you want to vet out commercial products in terms of cleaning products, you can certainly go to ewg.org. They have a wonderful section on which commercial products you can buy and the rating in terms of their toxic components or ingredients. So certainly anything with fragrance in it, I would avoid. Fragrance or perfume on a label, often, well, it's proprietary, so you're not privy to the actual number of chemicals that go into that word fragrance or perfume on a label. And it can be upwards of 300, 400 chemicals. It's really just a generalized word. It's like Coca-Cola. So we're not allowed to know what's in that word fragrance, trade secret, so to speak. But I would say to you in general, don't buy candles, synthetic candles, even if they say organic, there's no such thing in cleaning products. There's no such thing in personal care products. Organic is only in FDA regulated food, our food source. And so it does have teeth. That's one of the few things that actually does have teeth, that has regulatory oversight, is USDA organic in food, in our food system. So I do recommend that as a separate issue. But in terms of our products that we bring in our home, put on our skin, feminine care products, the word organic really means nothing. You can have one tiny ingredient that's organic and the rest 95 point whatever is not organic, and they can still claim it's organic on the front label, which is very misleading. But if you don't buy things like synthetic candles, incense, air fresheners, which just boggle my mind to cover up air, when your sink is full of dirty dishes, makes no sense to me. If you don't buy floor cleaners that are particularly toxic, if you don't buy window cleaners, we've been sold a bill of goods about the cleaning of our home. And we have a whole chapter on cleaning products and sort of the history of being clean and where that started and why we all feel like we need to keep up with the Joneses with carpet powder and, fabric softeners and all these products. When we really can go back to do-it-yourself type of ingredients, which we have in the book, where you can make your own laundry detergent, you can make your own personal care products, or you could just go to vetted resources, as I mentioned, like EWG. So not bringing it into your home already decreases a huge load of harmful chemicals, endocrine disruptors, heavy metals, a whole bunch of things, flame retardants. That's number one. Number two, when you bring in the products, you want to vet them. You want to know what you're bringing in. And once you vet them and you have a good idea of your product, then that makes shopping a lot easier and probably a lot cheaper, because you can typically get one good product that covers a lot of different cleaning services. You don't need a cleaner for a windows versus a floor versus a handle versus that's the marketing of this industry. It's $1 billion industry. I say open windows. I say get as many plants as you feel is reasonable that you can keep alive, which is questionable around this household. Because you got to maintain them. The surface area of the leaves often can attract a lot of the chemicals that end up from our air onto the leaves. You can wash the leaves off. And then of course there's the exchange of gases. So they take off not only CO2 in our environment, but they also can help with the VOCs as well. And this has been well studied. And we give a list of plants in the book that are have been tested more than others, like Dracaena and money plant. So that's really helpful. Another really key issue in reducing chemicals in your home is dusting. So no matter whether you're not ready to give up your couch that may have flame retardant chemicals, which of course there are labels that show if your couch does and does not have flame retardant chemicals. And I show the two labels so you can really identify them. But say you have a couple couches like we did that had flame retardant chemicals, but we just didn't really have the money or the time to really remove them for a few years. You want to dust. You want to dust because all of these chemicals in our products end up in dust, often in homes. This has been well studied. In fact, phthalates, flame retardant chemicals, and BPA were the two obviously big groups because they're in so many of our products in terms of computer casings and textiles and materials, and dust really holds that. And when you have children, young children on the floor, your toys, they put wet toys, it gets stuck to the dust. When you have pets, especially cats, have been well studied for hyperthyroidism, the wasting cat syndrome, made the New York Times, because we now know they have high levels of flame retardant chemicals and a whole bunch of toxic chemicals in their bloodstream because of their hand to mouth or licking. That was really an incredible story, and it's been substantiated. So they are sort of the canaries in the coal mine, unfortunately, as my cat sits right here on the table. So really, again, dusting, HVAC system for air, opening windows daily if your air quality outside is in fact better than generally your indoor. Not everyone lives in a clean air environment. You can get an air filter. They can be rather expensive, the real good ones. I know they were sold out in California because of the forest fires. That was very hard to get for over a year. But I don't think everyone needs to invest in that. I think you can do a lot of more low-hanging fruit and get a lot more bang for your buck and effort without spending a lot of money to do that with indoor air quality. I think that was the question. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's pretty much it, but we cover a lot more stuff if people are really into the deep dive. COVID versus cleaning real quick. There's no doubt we're all worried about COVID. COVID infection is real and certainly deadly. We now know that. when you're cleaning for COVID, the amount of cleaning materials that exploded onto the market was so sad and so frightening. None of it is checked at the door for toxicity. Quaternary ammoniums, all sorts of harmful chemicals were added to the market. They're being advertised even now as antimicrobials, antivirus. What people don't realize is when you look at a label for cleaning products, it'll say active ingredient at the top, and it may have one ingredient that doesn't sound so harmful. And then when you look at the very bottom of the product, it'll say inactive ingredients. And inactive ingredients is where a ton of harmful chemicals reside. And many are antimicrobials, where they create antibiotic resistance. And many are endocrine disruptors, pegylated chemicals that go through the skin. So we have a real problem with just the influx of cleaning chemicals. What I would say for COVID is that you could do a great job of cleaning COVID with isopropyl alcohol in terms of killing off bacteria, 70% concentration or above. Our alcohol we get at the wound care section of any big box pharmacy or store. People don't often look in the wound care section. You just need a bottle of alcohol. You put a sprayer on top. And if you look at the top, it says active ingredient, isopropyl alcohol, 70% or 80% or 90%. And at the inactive ingredients on the bottom, it says water. And it's really shocking to compare two different labels. But that is what I have been using all throughout this pandemic. I have little bottles in my pocketbook. I gave a big bottle with the sprayer to my husband in his car, one in my car. We go out to restaurants, we spray everything. And really, it does a great job. You don't need wipes that ruin the environment. You can just let it aerate off after you rub your hands with a little bit of alcohol, no gels. And there was a lot of contamination of hand purifiers that people may have remembered. They were putting other chemicals in that were making people quite sick. Bleach, it can be used in certain high traffic areas, hospitals, but really needs to be diluted properly. We give the recipe for that actually in the book that was recommended by the CDC. But again, most things, soap and water for regular cleaning. And isopropyl alcohol, I've been recommending for really the COVID areas, that potential areas. So I hope that really helps people to not use chemicals with abandon, which is really where we're at.